All right, then. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my live horror movie review of The Blob and the 1988 version of The Blob as well. The first we're gonna talk about is the 1958 version, and then the next one after that is gonna be the 1988. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming. All right, so let's get started. So, what is the Blob exactly? Well, now the Blob is basically a germ or parasitic creature, if you will, that basically just eats everything in sight. If you ever think of anybody ever played with Silly Putty or Guts or Slime, like from Nickelodeon Slime, it's basically think of that concept. It's slime, basically. It's putty, slimy sort of thing that basically eats everything in sight. And one of the interesting things that it does is that when it eats someone, it basically dissolves them, and people are like, just like, "Oh God, save me, please!" It's like it's dissolving me. Ah! But yes. So the first Blob was made in 1958. Starred cast like Steve McQueen and I can never pronounce this actress name, like Anita Corsott, and they're the ones who play the lovers, and they're the ones who discover the Blob the first time around, followed by another pedestrian. And what's interesting about these two movies is that it did follow somewhat of the premise. Um, the 1988 version did follow a little bit what happened with the original one from 1958. Is a gentleman. It's an old guy. Unfortunately, he's a homeless. With the 1958 version, it was, I want to say this guy was homeless, but he's definitely living out in the woods. In the 1988 version, it was a guy who was just homeless, living out pretty much in the woods. And they both had dogs, and they both unfortunately came into contact with the Blob, and it just slowly start dissolving his hand and whatnot, or should I say, encompassing his hand, and then slowly his body, and then all around. But let's talk about how these two people come together. How do our heroes find out about the Blob? So in the first one, the 1958 version, we see two young people together on Lover's Lane. He's just putting on the old charm, as they say, and she's just falling forward left and right, like, "Oh dear, what? Oh, you're so amazing." He's like, "Oh, honey, you're my gal. I love you to death." And then, shoo, meteorite comes down, lands, and the guy's like, "Hey, that's awesome. Let's go see that meteorite. What could possibly go wrong?" And then, sure enough, another person enters. This is the old guy who lives in the forest. Him and his dog. They all examine this meteorite together, and then he gets the slime on him, and he's like, "Ugh, what the hell? What the hell? No, no!" And so basically, we have our heroes taking him to the hospital, and that's when it starts up. That's where the movie really starts up, gets going. We meet new character. We get introduced to new characters. We get introduced to some of the other kids in the neighborhood, and we have and then they start their own little detective thing as they try and figure out what's going on. And then we're like, 1988. We have something of a bit of a similarity, except this time around, the old guy who gets infected and dies from it is the homeless guy, who unfortunately finds our hero. And our hero in the 1958 version is basically the how do I put this? He's like the underdog, if you will. He's the kid who, unfortunately, he's a screw up, pretty much. He's the bad seed. The whole town knows about him. His mother's no good. No one knows who his father is. And so basically, if anything bad happens in this town, generally speaking, this kid may or may not have, but more than likely has something to do with it. And so he discovers it, and he finds the old guy, and he's trying to help the old geezer and whatnot, but he's like, it's still on me, still on me. And this old guy, he tries to cut off his own damn hand. And when he grabs the axe, he's like, "Ah!" Oh, I should really set this up. So our hero, our underdog, if you will, the guy is also played by, I forgot to say it, Kevin Dillon, which, if any of you have ever seen Entourage, this is Johnny Drama. That's right, we have a young Johnny Drama. So basically, Johnny Drama, he's just sleeping, resting peacefully, thinking about, oh, probably smoking, riding his bike, and flipping off the local PD. And sure enough, he wakes up and this old guy's like, ah! He tries to cut off his own damn hand. And he's like giving him the look and everything else. It's like, ah! He fails to do so, he runs, whatnot. And then sure enough, we get introduced to our second character, the love interest, if you will. The more they give him the will they, won't they type vibe and whatnot. We see our other character, and her name is Shawnee Smith. She plays Meg Penny. And this actress, some of you may remember when you see the movie or look her up, she was in the Saw movies, 1, 2, and 3. She played the young girl who escaped Jigsaw's, the first, not the first victim of Jigsaw, but she was one of the original people who managed to beat the game, live. Then, she, if you've seen Saw movies, you know exactly where her character goes. But back to our movie. So we get introduced to her because she's on a date right now with the local football player. And this local football player, see, her father in this movie is the pharmacist. And he has a friend who bought him some condoms. And sure enough, the father, sees them both and everything else. And then when the guy she's going on a date with comes and meets her and whatnot, he meets her father. And he's like, oh, you son of a bitch. I sold you condoms. I know exactly what you're going to do. So they go off. They on a little date and whatnot. And then sure enough, they hit the old guy. And this guy's like, what the hell? What the hell? And they're like, what's on his hand? And he's looking at our rough Johnny Drama. And he's like, what did you do? I'm like, what did I do? Shit, hang on. He's looking at our young Johnny Drama, and he's like, sorry about that, by the way. What did you do? And I'm like, what do you mean, what did I do? You just hit a man with with your car. So they get him to the hospital, and then that's where the movie starts to really pick up and whatnot. Lost my train of thought. Phone call. Should turn off my phone. But that's where the movie really starts to pick up. We see more death. We see more destruction. We see blah, 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 if you will. So, but let's talk about the Blob itself. Now, this thing with the special effects of it, whenever it ate someone, they really decided to go with the whole, okay, this is like, it's going to encompass them, and then it's like an acid thing, like it starts to dissolve them. And we see that with the victims, but more so with the 1988 version, because we have, by then, more special effects. They were doing more stuff, and they really wanted to see, like, I'm getting eaten by this thing. And I gotta say, it's really cool. I gotta say, it's really cool. There's this one scene also in the 1988 version where this one guy, he and this girl are, trying to hook up and everything else. She passed out drunk. He's sort of feeling her up and whatnot. And sure enough, the Blob eats him as he's getting a little frisky with her and whatnot. And that was just awesome. So he's like, no, my hand. And it just slowly like pulls him in and eats him and whatnot. But yeah, the death scenes in this are very good. It's very interesting to see how they decided when you've seen the original and then you see this one, how they decide, you know what, let's have the victims and whatnot. We're going to have them like slowly, not slowly, I should say, but how it's like when they eat them, it's like they dissolve. Maybe they're alive, maybe they're dead. And it's just really good. The effects of this was pretty good. If I had to give this movie anything, it would be, I'd say B. B minus. Just because this is an older movie and everything else, but that's not really why I would give it a B minus. Just forget the B minus, just straight B. Just B. We're gonna make this a B level movie, which it is. It's not C. It's not C. You can definitely say that, but definitely a B movie. And if you're ever bored and you're like, oh, I want to watch something, let's watch, a classic movie. Let's watch a classic horror movie. This is definitely one movie I think you should definitely watch. It's very good. The acting's okay. But if you like all the, there's definitely some funny moments in there. excuse me, when the victims die and everything. And it's just, it's good, wholesome fun for everyone. Cinematography is not too bad. So I would definitely say if you ever get a chance to watch both the original and the 1988 version of the Blob, I would definitely watch them both. Then you'll see the differences that I'm referring to. And I don't know, you might maybe appreciate the movie a little bit more. I know I certainly did because when I saw the original one, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I started thinking because I've seen the 1980 version of it, and I recently watched it again, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" They decided to do yeah, they took little bits and pieces from the old one. Definitely, what's similar about it is definitely the ending, because they did to beat this thing, you gotta freeze it pretty much. It does not like the cold. But a slight difference with the original film's ending and with this one is that in the 1988 version, I feel like they were going to try and make a sequel because we see someone, I'm not going to tell you who, you're going to have to watch this movie. We see someone with a piece of the blob and then it cuts to black. So why they didn't decide to make another one? I don't know. It could have been budgeting, could have been the fact this movie wasn't well received. Who knows? I haven't really found too many details about that. But anyway, definitely check out the Blob. If you can't find well, I should say you can find the 1958 version on HBO Max now, or HBO Now, I should say. Yeah, no, HBO Max. That's what's called. And then for the 1988 version, it is readily available um, at all your streaming services, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Google, YouTube has it, Vudu, if anyone still uses that, they have it as well. Okay, but thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And also, if you get a chance to see this movie, comment below and let me know what you think of it. Okay. And thank you guys so much for joining me on the live stream. I have now been able to set up a time to when it's like I can do these on the regular. So tune in next week for my live review of another horror movie. Okay. So, guys, as always, till next time, later.